Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. I'm your host for today's episode and I am joined by Iain and Joanne. I'll start with you, Jo. How's it going?
All good. Looking forward to this very interesting and different preview of a game that, I'm looking forward to it anyway.
Absolutely. We normally have a decent knowledge of the opponent, but these are relatively unknown, or at least to me. But our next guest is a beacon of knowledge, so maybe you'll know more. Iain, how's it going, Iain? We can't seem to get away from each other at the minute.
I know. I thought I had the night off tonight, actually, but in best Harvey Barnes style, I'm stepping in to play a leading role, just like he's going to do against Bromley on Sunday.
A little bit of a preview in the first minute. Couldn't get better. Absolutely brilliant. Now, as we've mentioned, it is a bit of an odd episode today because we don't really know too much about the opposition, but thankfully, that probably means neither do you. And if you do, well, you must love terrible football. It's League Two. I've watched enough League Two in my time to know it's terrible football. But I thought I'd start on our thoughts on how we're feeling going into the competition. Iain, we did speak briefly on this last night, so go more into what should be the easiest game of our season so far. No disrespect intended to Bromley, but Andy Woodman doesn't really get me as a top-class manager and Bromley doesn't really fit me as a top-class side. But, Joanne, how are you feeling going into the game?
I mean, personally, I thought Man U was the easiest game of the season so far, but if it's going to be Bromley, it's going to be Bromley. Poor Bromley. Watch them get a bloody draw against us like Wimbledon did. Let's hope not, though. That would be pretty embarrassing. Come on, I mean, we've got to go into it expecting, even if we play second string plus some youngsters, we've still got to expect to win this, haven't we, really? It's not any disrespect to Bromley, is it? It's just, come on, we're at home, we've got everything going for us. We've got a packed house, which is pretty impressive, considering we're playing a fourth-tier team, who the only information I know about them is they're mid-table in League Two. That's my knowledge of Bromley. It's a good start, right? And that's where it ends as well. But yeah, I mean, other than pretty confident because we're smashing everything anyway, even though I don't expect pretty much anyone from our normal starting team to start.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've still got to expect us to win, haven't you, really?
100%. What about you, Ian? Are you excited to see what the rest of the Newcastle side can do, given we're likely to make at least 9 changes?
I think it's interesting, isn't it? And it comes just at a perfect time because it's not like the guys who have put 3 excellent shifts in 8 days have got a lot of time off. Because we're there on next Wednesday to see them play Wolves. So, but it has come at a great time to give those guys a day off. Now, I think, I might be making this up, one of our listeners can correct me if it's true, but I think, for me, it's a little bit of a needle match. Because I think last year, when Gateshead were refused permission to be promoted into the Football League, it was Bromley that took their place. Because I don't think it was Bromley. I don't think it was Bromley that won that league. I think it was Chesterfield, wasn't it?
Bromley went up through the playoffs. That's correct.
There you go. That's where Gateshead should have been. So yeah, bit of a needle match. So I think this. I think our second string should still be way too good for them. But I know you'll be remembering Cambridge and maybe Oxford.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're as old as me, you can go back decade after decade after decade. Remember losing at home to Luton. Remember losing at home to Bournemouth when they were a third division side. Of course, Hereford, which I do just about remember. I remember the replay. I go back a long way to know that if there's a banana skin to be stepped on in the FA Cup third round, Newcastle will be trying their best to make it look as if they're going to step on it. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what some of the young lads... I mean, I think Osula should start. Give him 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Let him get his first goals for Newcastle. That would be fantastic.
To be honest, I just want to focus on something that we've briefly mentioned there, and that is Newcastle's form against lower league clubs. In our last 6 games against lower league opposition, we've only won 3 of them. And one of them was against Sunderland, so it was basically a bye. But we've had 1 draw, in 2 losses against lower league opposition, with Cambridge and Sheffield Wednesday, both given Eddie House side defeats. And I just have to ask, why do you think it is that we struggle against lesser opponents at times? Or is it just a case of we're playing our backups? Well, backups clearly aren't good enough, as good as the other teams. Or is it a motivational factor? What do you think, Iain?
Probably a combination of both. But also, I think there's something that we have at the moment, which is that almost telepathic link and connections between the players who are playing week in, week out with each other. That when you change your team wholesale because it's against a lesser team, you don't have any of that. You don't have any of that if there's 2 or 3 of the under-23s that are stepping into the team because they've earned the right, and we want to test them against professionals. You know, they've got nothing other than training experience in playing with those teams. So I'm sure nobody who turned out on Kieran Trippier's debut to play at home against Cambridge wasn't motivated to win that. And Eddie actually didn't pick that much of a weakened team. It just was one of those games which everybody can get, aren't they? But so
100%.
hopefully we've got more strength in depth after the last 3 years. We've certainly recruited well into the academy, so I'm hoping they've got a higher level as well. And so our second string should have too much for essentially what should still be a National League side. Sorry, Bromley.
Up the heat. No, 100%. And Bromley have actually already lost to an under-21s Premier League side this season, losing to Chelsea in what was the Johnson's Paint Trophy, then became the Papa Johns when the Mackhams were in that bottom tier trophy. No disrespect to any other team that's won it, just the Sunderland. They lost enough finals, it's fine. So they've got previous of losing against lower opposition in the under-21s of a Premier League side. But going back to what we were saying before with Newcastle's perhaps poor form against lower league opposition, Joanne, why do you think that is? Is it sort of a motivational thing, or is it just the second string isn't good enough?
If I'm honest, when you first said it and then went to Iain, I was thinking exactly along the same lines. I wouldn't say it's a motivational thing, or you'd at least hope it's not, I'll be honest, because these guys should still be motivated to want to play well and win something at the same time. So I would hope to God it's got nothing to do with motivation. But I think it just more is along the lines of these guys are more used to training with each other. It's a completely different thing being in a competitive match, no matter what level you're at.
Yeah.
And then again, Iain is bang on in the sense of they haven't played game in, game out with each other. They haven't got, like you said, some of the telepathic things that are going on with our current team at the minute. So it's just a case of getting used to each other's style, I suppose, as well. So I don't think it's going to be... It's a strange one, isn't it? Because technically, on paper, right, we should go out there and smash them off the park. I genuinely don't think we're going to. I wouldn't put a bet on to say we're going to. And you know we all love a good cheeky flutter on this team. Well, a few of us do anyway. But yeah, like I wouldn't go out and say, oh, we're going to smash them 6-7-0, because we probably won't because of those factors that we've just talked about. I do believe we'll win, but I don't think it's just going to be a different kind of, a very, very different kind of game, I'll be honest. And people who are going to the game, by the way, who probably haven't seen many games this season, because I bet there's quite a few out there after how many hundreds of tickets I've just seen back on the website. I'm assuming this is maybe the first game for a lot of people this season, so they're not really going to see the Newcastle we're used to watching many of the games we've been
absolutely to. No, absolutely not. And it's to be honest, you make a great point there about sort of the lack of goals that we might see. The last 2 FA Cup games we've seen at home against lower league opposition have both finished 1-0. The Cambridge match that we mentioned earlier, I believe it was Joe Ironside that got the goal that day, Geordie lad. And the 1-0 win against AFC Wimbledon earlier in the season, where I think we were all expecting a brilliant game.
We were all there as well, weren't we?
Yeah, we were all there, and we all nearly fell asleep. I mean, I probably would have if I wasn't in level 7. Sitting there, usually 5 degrees or something, I can still have shorts on. I'm sat up there going, I'm so cold. My wife is having to keep me warm, bless her. She did a fantastic job. But before I divert onto my own family matters, we're going to move on and go to the first advert of the day from Zencastr.
Cool. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone, AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Absolutely fantastic, Joe. Thank you very much. And we are back. So before we go into our predicted lineup, which I think is probably going to be the most exciting part of the episode if you're a football fan wanting to know what's going to happen, I do just want to give a few facts about Bromley because, as I say, most people, including myself, would have known nothing before doing a little bit of research. So they are coached by Andy Woodman, who many will remember was ex-Newcastle goalkeeping coach, father to Freddie. It's probably the only reason he got in the academy, considering he can't catch a ball. But he's doing well at Preston now, so that's fine. Bromley are
he was a great goalie.
He was terrible. But Bromley are unbeaten in 10 prior to their weekend loss against Crewe Alexandra, who beat them 4-1. Their star player is Michael Cheek, should I say, not Creek, but he's playing in the Football League for the first time in his career at the age of 33. And he's absolutely nailing it. Scored 12 times in 20 games for the Brom this season. One player that everyone, I believe, may know who plays for Bromley at the minute is ex-Arsenal defender Carl Jenkinson, who went off to have some time in Australia and has, for some reason, come back to the Premier League. Not to the Premier League with Bromley. Come back to play Premier League sides in the form of Newcastle. And their best defender, Carmel Grant, is out suspended, so their two centre-backs will likely have a combined age of 64. And if they decide to play their third choice instead of their second choice, that will go up to over 70. I think it leaves 71. So it's one of those where, realistically, if William Osula plays up front and doesn't have a good game, I think serious questions are going to be asked. Yeah.
We can. Let's get real.
As we go into our predicted lineup, we're going to start at the other end of the pitch, and I'm going to ask you who you both think will start in goal. Do you think it'll be a last hurrah for Martin Dubravka, or do you think Odysseys will feature? Joe, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, I think everyone believes that Dubravka's gone after the last game based on how he kind of left the pitch and he was the last one there and he looked like he was crying. And so I don't expect him to start. And I didn't really expect him to start, if I'm honest, even if he wasn't leaving. I think it is just an opportunity for that Greek guy. I'm not going to say his name, I'll destroy it. So a Greek keeper to get a game, give him some game time. He needs something because God forbid, which I just think is going to happen anyway, if Dubravka really is going, he is now going to be a keeper until Pope's back, and that, not being rude to him, it kind of worries me because we're on such a great kind of run and we are now aiming very high. I think, we've discussed it now. I mean, we're putting bets on about we'll win the league and all sorts. So I appreciate we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Some of us are.
Some of us, sorry, it was me. I know I'm like probably tarring you guys with my brush. But no, but again, we're getting really excited about what the season could be. And it just kind of worries me that we're now going to go to play in a third choice keeper that I'm just not convinced by because I don't know enough from. I haven't seen enough from, so I can't fully judge him. It's as simple as that. But 100%, Greek keeper in, basically.
Joanne, if you had followed England as closely as me and Michael had to, because we had to do the bloody podcasts about England
every single time,
you would have watched Odysseus, whatever he's called. You'd have watched him play very well twice against England for Greece, and I don't think you've got any worries. Greece is a team on a par with Slovakia, and it's their international goalkeeper instead of Slovakia's international goalkeeper. I'd have no worries about him at all.
Okay. I'm not judging. I don't know enough about him. That's all. It's not like I don't hate the guy. I just can't love him. I don't know him. That's it.
Can't stand that geezer. I've never seen play.
Don't say that.
But by that, Ian, I take it you believe that Odysseys, whatever it is, will start.
I think, I think he'll start, unless all of this faffing around with Martin Dubravka, who I'm sure was gone on Tuesday night, and then Eddie came out and said he didn't just want them to stay till the end of the season; he wants to give them a new contract.
Yes,
which might well. And a lot of the guys. A lot of the noise is that Pope doesn't walk straight back into this team because Dubravka has played so well. That may well have turned Dubravka's head. I think if he's got the number one jersey on his back and he becomes the number one again, then maybe he does want to stay to the end of the season. Maybe he wants to stay to the end of the season and into the next season. So I don't know. You might have said, look, I'll stay for the match so I can say goodbye to St. James's Park.
That's a great point.
I don't know.
I think one of his biggest regrets will have been that loan to Man United because he didn't get to feature in the cup final in the end. And us beating Arsenal so convincingly in the end, having a home game against them in the semi-final, I think that might be enough to sway, I think, anybody. Never mind someone that's been at the club for 7+ years. So yeah, we think we're in agreement. But the back line is quite an interesting one because we don't have a lot of names there. Iain, I'll start with you this time. What are you thinking for your back four?
Well, I think Trippier comes in at right back.
Yep.
I think Matt Targett comes in at left back.
Good shout.
I think Baby Fabshar, who's probably wanting to get back up to match fitness for the rest of the league matches, will come in at centre half. And then Lloyd Kelly. And that's not a bad back four.
Not at all. I think that would, to be honest, that would probably play every game in a top championship side. So it's one of those that every day that back line should be more than enough to handle a Bromley team. But the main thing there is Fabian Schär. I mean, obviously we'll want him to get a bit of game time, but when you look at it, actually, because of the injuries to Emil Kraft and Jamal Lascelles, unless you're looking at maybe young Alex Murphy, there's not a lot of options there. So hopefully we don't see an injury to Fabian Schär before the game. But I think, Joanne, were you agreed on the back four there?
I do, but I kind of don't want Schär to play just for the exact reason you just said there. Yeah. I just think it's far too risky. Surely we've got someone else, and like you say, we can bring one of the kids in, gives them a chance. They should still be able to do 100%. A job, especially with the likes of Trips. A lot of experience. Kelly is good enough. I know we've talked about him many times, but he is good enough in that sense, certainly to handle a team like that.
100%.
And Target the job. Yeah, I don't want to see Schär start simply because I don't want him any opportunity to be injured because we need him back for Wolves.
I don't know the names, Michael, but there are what I mean. I do know Alex Murphy's name, and he's looked good when I've seen him play. But I think he's the left-hand side anyway, isn't he? Predominantly.
Yes, because he can play left back as well.
We've the captain of the under-23s is a centre half. Cahal somebody or other.
Cathal Heffernan.
Yeah, he might come in. He might be ready to be blooded in the first team. And we've got some young wonder kid fullback as well, who may well have earned the right to get a little bit of a run out. Can't remember his name.
Leo
Where
Shah.
does Harrison play again?
Shah.
He's not
Harrison's like centre mid sort of area. At least that's where he's been playing for the under-21s.
I couldn't remember where he played, but I wouldn't mind seeing him, to be fair. He's supposed to be doing all right at the minute, but absolutely. I don't know. There's so many options, really, when you start talking about bringing the kids in as well, isn't it?
Yeah, they've all seemed to impress over the last the last year or so. The team's looking a lot better. And from what I can tell from words that sort of I've heard from people inside the club is that like the games against AC Milan and stuff like that, they made the team so much better because they've had that experience playing against players at the highest level. I mean, that Kamada, the young lad from AC Milan, if anyone hasn't seen his goal record, it's absolutely fantastic. So, playing against that standard of player is only going to make you better. And I think that's what we've seen a lot from the under-21. So any of them should be very easy to fit in, much like one of the players that I think you're going to say at the start in centre mid. Who are the three centre mids that you're going to be going for? Joe, I'll start with you this time.
I would expect Longstaff to come back in because there's going to be some experience. We're not literally going to play a team full of kids, are we really?
No.
I don't know. Because obviously it's just none of our first starters. You're wiping them all out straight away, aren't you, really? I wouldn't even expect Willock to start, in honesty, but he might. I don't know. Could start Willock and Longstaff.
I know who Michael's thinking of. The obvious one.
Oh, yes.
Are you thinking of one of the kids, are you, Michael?
Lewis Miley is the obvious one to come in.
Oh, Miley. Yeah, I was going to bring him in anyway. But yeah, sorry, I thought you were thinking of someone like more out of it.
Oh, no one rogue.
No one rogue. Right, okay. Well, Miley 100% in that case. And Miley needs to be playing Longstaff and Willock. There we go. That'll be my three.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that's probably the most likely three as well. Would you?
Louis Miley, definitely. One of Longstaff and Willock. And one of Turner Cook or Archie, what you call him. I think we'll do
Alfie
that.
Harrison that I just mentioned.
Yes.
Oh, no. Yeah.
It'd be a fantastic chance to see some of the young'uns in action because,
I know.
to be honest, they're not going to better opportunity at home to Bromley. If you can get one of them in next to Lewis Miley, who's been absolutely phenomenal, a brilliant example of how someone can come into the team and embed themselves properly, and a local lad in Sean Longstaff or an absolute engine in Joe Willock. Yeah, it'll be great for their careers, and hopefully they might step up to the first team in the near future. But we're going to finish off part 2. Sorry,
I was going to say in the midfield, Louis Miley's been playing under 23 football, so you bring another one of his guys he's played half a dozen games with this season in. You are getting some of those connections and telepathy, and I think that might be if they're good enough. I don't know. I've only seen little cameos from Turner Cook in the pre-season. He looked all right. Yeah. So, and I don't follow the under-23s anywhere near as closely as I should do. But yeah, so I wouldn't mind. Maybe they start Willock and Longstaff and go 3 ahead and start bring the other lads on when they've done that. Who knows?
Yeah, either way, I think it'd be, we should win at the end of the day, no matter who we play, because the talent is there. There's always the chance that you come away with a loss, and that's maybe why against, maybe you don't start Harrison or someone like that. But we're going to finish off part 2 with the front 3. I think we're in agreement that William Osula should start up front, because let's be honest, it's not going to be Callum Wilson. So on the wings, I think we're going to say Barnes for left wing as well.
Yeah.
All 3?
Yeah.
Oh, what are you thinking, Ian?
Well, I Barnes on the bench, maybe. Because just in case the washing machine guy, Sanusi, is not...
Doesn't he play on the right? Because I was going to call him for the right.
I think he's left. I think he's left winger. Yeah.
I'm not 100% certain myself, but I know he plays on the wing. So no, I can't help you.
I'm going to Google it and cheat.
He got a lot of time in the pre-season. I'm sure he came in on the left-hand side. So I would quite like to see him again. Because
100%.
Let's be honest, this is the second part of the season. If we're going to have any of these guys breaking through into next year, we want them on the bench. We want them getting used to travelling away. We want them to come on and do their 10 minutes, etc. So they've got to start somewhere. And I think Sanusi's quite high up the pecking order to get a go in this game. He might be on the bench and then come on, as I say. But yeah, if it's not him, it's Barnes on the left, and then I think Miggy needs to run out on the right, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's the thing. I seen something the other day, and maybe I've just been fooled by Twitter, which does tend to happen more often than I care to admit. But from what I'd seen, apparently Miggy was in Paris getting a flight.
He is,
apparently. Yeah, so if that's true, then the right wing spot's very open. One of the young'uns coming in, because I don't think we're going to start Jacob Murphy again. You've got to give him a little bit of a rest.
He's our star boy right now.
Good.
Come on, guys. It's not just me anymore.
In his last 2,000 minutes of Premier League football, he's got 14 assists.
He's been outstanding. Come on. Everybody knows now.
Incredible.
It's great.
So with that, we're not going to turn this into a Jacob Murphy fan club. We're going to go into our second advert of the day from the Global Sports Podcast Network.
The Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasting with dedicated daily content for every Premier League team, women's football, a dedicated Premier League wrap-up in 5 different languages. This is your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find the GSPN wherever you find your usual podcasts.
Oh, fantastic. And how many languages was that, Ian?
It was in 5. Count
5?
Them.
Oh,
count them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's terrible. It's terrible wording, though. It doesn't make any sense. That first sentence just is grammatically incorrect. I'm sorry. Then I have to try.
We'll put it to the powers that be. We'll just make our own advert. We'll go rogue.
Well,
but going into the last part, I just want to ask you, who at the weekend do you want to see the most, who the danger men could be, and who are you most looking forward to seeing? Now, we've mentioned some of the young'uns in there. We've mentioned William Osula, but to pick out one, who would it be? And I will start with you, Ian.
Right. Well, I'm picking 2 because I've already mentioned William Osula, and I have been impressed with the little cameos that I've seen of him.
Yeah.
What a fantastic chance he's got. 52,000 people shouting Osula to the tequila tune.
Great.
And he's up against 2 geriatric centre halves. This is his moment. But I'm also really keen to see how Sanusi has come on since he impressed me coming on and doing his Alanson Maximum impersonation in pre-season. I really hope he can keep developing and come on and bring us that.
Looks like a star.
Bring us that thrill
100%.
back. They're my 2.
Absolutely, 2 great picks. And what about you, Joe?
Well, I think Osler's everyone wants to see him, don't they? So he has to play. I think Eddie might be forced to play him, whether he wants to play him or not. But yeah, Sanusi was another one, but Miley, I'm looking forward to seeing Miley back and should surely have just pure control of that midfield, a kid like him. I know he's still young, and he's Mr. Beefed Up Miley now, isn't he?
Yeah.
No, it'll be interesting to see how he takes it on, but you expect him to have full control, don't you, really? So yeah, I'm excited to see him back, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's took the players that are realistically going to be the most exciting. But I do have to say, being probably our main attacking threat if he plays, I really want to see something from Harvey Barnes because we see all the time how good he is off the bench. If he's going to be a starter, Anthony Gordon has stepped up so much in the last 7 games that Harvey Barnes isn't an afterthought. But there's not a chance of him starting the next league game against Wolves unless Gordon's injured. So a game like this, if he performs well, it's probably not going to change that. But he could put himself back in the thoughts of Eddie Howe and go, I deserve a start. And I think this is the kind of team, when you're up against Carl Jenkinson, who wasn't good enough for Arsenal, wasn't good enough for Palace, wasn't good enough for Bolton, probably did all right in Australia. I don't know who watches Australian football. Sorry to any Australians who might be watching this.
Can you imagine? They are the next in line to all the Americans that listen to us. Not anymore.
I'm sure he is actually a very, very talented and good player. But up against Harvey Barnes, you have to expect Barnes to really shine alongside the likes of Miley.
We've searched and searched fruitlessly for a player who played for both Bromley and Newcastle. I think Carl Jenkinson has got the closest because I am sure when he was at Arsenal, and we were looking for cheap failures from the top 6 that we could pick up, like we used to pick for our first team. I'm sure Jenkinson was linked with us a few times.
Yeah, so imagine him and Obertan on the wing. Sorry, bad memories.
Oh dear. Yeah. So anyway,
nearly killed Ian.
It made me laugh. Just remembered him, but God, he was terrible, wasn't he?
Head like Megamind. But with that, we're gonna move. We're gonna move into our final predictions for the game. I will obviously go last, and I will start with you, Joe. What's your predictions for Newcastle versus Bromley?
3-0, Osler hat-trick.
Oh,
lovely.
Get that on. What's the odds on that? What about you, Ian?
No.
I really hope it's a good game because I am in hospitality for this because it's half the price. Fancy. It's in half the price of any other game. So the least I could do is see some goals flying in, isn't it?
Yeah.
However, I strongly suspect that the wily old professionals that play it for Bromley will be like the AFC Wimbledon. They're about the same league, same position in the league. Yeah. So I think we'll win. I hope it's not just through a Fabian Schär penalty, but I am going to go. I'm going to go 2-0.
That was originally my thinking as well. I do think it'll be a tight game, but if there's ever a time for me to go overly positive, it's probably when we play Bromley. So I'm going to go we're going to go one better than we did against Sunderland, and we're going to win 4-0. It'll be the only other team in the last 7 games that we've beaten by more than 1. Yes, that's how bad Sunderland were. But I think Bromley will be a little bit worse. and we'll see Harvey Barnes get a brace, Osula get one, and Lewis Miley will wrap it up with an absolute fantastic man of the match performance. But that is all for today's episode. And as you can tell, we probably don't know enough about Bromley to be properly previewing the game. You might know a bit more. And honestly, wouldn't it actually be nice for football if Bromley turned up and gave us a proper good game? And it would pick people like me, shut up. But on that point, we're going to leave you there. I've been Michael Grahamslaw. I've been joined by Iain and Jo, and we will see you next time.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.